How's it going, guys? How's everybody doing?
What's up, Chad?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, good morning.
Good to see you guys.
Same, yeah. Excited for another update. A lot of cool stuff.
A lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. Let's do a quick intro and then we'll hop right into it. Good morning, everyone. I'm Familiar Cow.
This is Pluto from Nine Realms.
This is Chad Barraford from the core devs, one of the core devs on THORChain project.
And Chad THOReau, community member and THORswap content.
So, Chad, this last weekend there was a meetup at ETH Denver conference, right? How'd that all go?
That actually went a lot better than I thought it was going to go because I had gone to ETH Denver and it hadn't even occurred to me to organize like an event or like a meetup or whatever. And then I got to Denver and I'm just like, oh yeah, we could do like throw together an event there. And so one of the Iridanis who lives in Denver from the Nine Realms team, him and I and Gavin from Non Realms were just like, let's just kind of throw something together. So like within like a half hour, we just like ordered, we got like reserved a venue and just kind of whatever. But then it ended up being super successful. Like a lot of people tell me it was like one of the best events of the week. And that was because there was like free food, free drinks, there was ping pong, there was like plenty of space to like walk around. There wasn't like blaring music where you like couldn't hear like or conduct a conversation like most of the other events had. And I ended up like meeting like a ton of people from the community. And there was even like a couple of people, like one guy flew in from, I think it was Dallas, just for this one event. He flew in from Dallas to Denver just to come to this event and flying out the next morning. And another guy I met, he flew in from Arizona, I think it was, just to come for this event and to participate in this meetup. So we had way more people there than we thought we were going to have. We like reserved it for like 100 people, and we ended up having like I don't even know what the count was, but it was definitely way more than 100. And it was just a great opportunity to meet so many people in the community and just shake their hands and talk to them.
That's awesome. Yeah, like wow, over 100. That's quite a lot of THORchads under one roof. Saw the pictures, looked super epic. I'll definitely have to try to make it next time.
Yeah, I think maybe whenever we do these conferences in the future, at least if I'm going, we'll try to organize. We'll be better about it and try to organize it more, not last minute. But we'll do more of these in the future. If people end up coming to these things, you'll be able to hang out, meet other THORchads, and just talk THORChain.
Yeah, we gave away a Thor Force 1 to someone that's there too, so they're going to be contacted by the Nine Realms team about getting that to you. So congrats to whoever that was. And whenever there's meetups like that in the future, just let's organize it and let's get some stuff out there for the people.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Pluto is here, and Pluto's in charge of the Luna integration on THORChain. So maybe Pluto, you could provide an update on like Luna integration timeline, stuff that people want to know.
Yeah. So there's still been a lot of work going on the Terra integration right up until the last day or two. So there's been a number of sort of like design decisions that we decided to revisit in terms of how we are doing like transaction success checking. There are some questions about gas and the gas events and that we emit to Midgard for the accounting and just for like UIs to be able to kind of see. And so there's a lot of actually things that the Terra chain, not a lot, but just there's a couple things that the Terra chain challenges about some of the assumptions in Thor node. So we just are going through and double checking and making sure everything is tip top for the release of that. As some of you guys may have seen, we sent out the infrastructure for Terra this week. So all of the validators are starting to add the Terra daemon to their deployment and basically sync from a snapshot. And then, the reason for this and the reason for sending this out well in advance is because Terra is far and away the most resource intensive daemon of any of the chains that we support today. So we wanted to make sure that we had a couple weeks to be able to assess any issues with node operators not being able to essentially provide a daemon. And for those that weren't able to provide a daemon, such as maybe one or two instances of bare metal nodes that aren't really like tooled or equipped to be able to handle a 32 gig RAM, process. They will basically be encouraged to leave, churn out, and then rebuild and then churn back in when they can support Terra. So it's one of these. It's definitely given us a lot of interesting topics of conversation to discuss amongst the core team, is like how we go about supporting chains, and what some of the requirements are. Like, for example, Solana is going to be a really tough one, and so we've had to look for some workarounds to the fact that like none of the validators would be able to run it, or they just simply wouldn't want to pay the expense of having to have 128 gig RAM instance, and it's very expensive. So we're starting to see where like the cost and trade-off to node operators and operators of the network itself as Nine Realms, of having to support these different chains. So it's brought up a lot of interesting conversations. It's caused us to have to mature our approach in infrastructure, and so that's why we wanted to give ourselves a decent amount of time to kind of see how the node operators would react and respond to issues bringing up Terra. But so far, so good. I don't have an exact count of how many validators have actually installed the Terra daemon, but there was a couple who had issues. Mostly they just didn't have their auto scaling turned on or something. But that's pretty much the easy part, although it is step one. And so step one is underway in the Terra integration. And at this point in time, what we're looking at is final reviews from the core team. If you guys go and look at the PR, like it's for me personally the biggest PR I've ever worked on in my career. It's got, and I'm used to working in a setting where on a team of 12 people, you're lucky if you get 2 people that will set aside time to review the PR. And I've got comments from like 8 different people, in depth and very high value comments. Like these are suggestions that basically every single suggestion that was made by each of the reviewers on this Terra PR, I went and updated as a matter of just that it's good feedback. Like most of the time it's like, oh yeah, well this person doesn't understand this, or they're just asking a question. No, these are like good concrete suggestions, and so for that I thank the core team and all of the other contributors behind the scenes, both on the core team and on Nine Realms. It couldn't have done any of this stuff alone. So huge shout out to all the developers who have had a play in this as well. Son of Odin, Heimdall has been extremely valuable. Ursa from the Nine Realms side on the infrastructure and even some of the things around calculating gas. So it's a tremendous undertaking to do and to build a new chain client, especially for like a new chain type like this. But it's been it's been good. We're just kind of rounding up and getting those final approvals now on that PR. I expect we are going to merge that PR either today or sometime over the weekend. The merge itself is a relatively inconsequential action. It just means that everyone's had eyes on the code and we're going to merge it. But it will, the Terra daemon will remain disabled for at least another week until we've had an opportunity for the Terra SCV team to take a look at it. And so the Terra SCV team is, I believe they're part of Terraform Labs, but someone could correct me if I'm wrong. But they're a team that specializes in security and auditing for smart contracts and applications or dApps built on top of Terra. So they're a service provided by the Terra ecosystem to ensure the security of the Terra ecosystem, much like the THORsec team ensures the security of the THORChain ecosystem. So they have a backlog. They've got a lot of other integrations and other projects to work with. But they have actually bumped us ahead in the queue and given us a bit of priority. So they are going to be able to look at it in about a week from now. So I estimate that in 2 weeks we will be ready to enable the Terra client in Bifrost. And then following that, after a successful churn, the new Terra Vault will be added, and then we can activate the pools and begin seeding them. So we've communicated with some of our downstream partners, DeFi Spot, THORSwap, basically just to let them know, like, hey, if thing's going to probably be delayed for another week or two. And so, yeah, I'm pleased with the progress, and I think that a good estimate for a March date, a launch date, would now be March 10th. So just 2 weeks from yesterday, I think is good. That's about it for the Terra updates. It's super excited, and progress as always, up and continuing to work and improve this in each iteration.
Yeah, just to add one more thing on top of that to what Pluto was just saying. We'll probably merge the code, and it's been reviewed by the team and the core devs, the THORsec team, Nine Realms. As he was saying earlier, a lot of different people. So we feel pretty good about it, but we're also not experts in the Terra ecosystem. So we could go ahead and launch Terra, by the end of the month if we really kind of wanted to. But we kind of are taking more of the conservative approach and just getting some outside eyes on this code base before we actually go live with it, which makes sense to me. So to me, that's worth. We were originally saying we were going to launch Terra by the end of the month, and that's no longer going to be the case. And to me, it's worthwhile to wait the extra week or two just to make sure that we have people who are very familiar with the Terra ecosystem, just to make sure everything's on the level.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys for the work you're doing. It's really awesome to see it all coming together. And yeah, of course, security is number one. Like, we definitely value that. I know that Nine Realms had kind of put out a tweet maybe only just a few days ago about wanting to get more eyes from the Terra side. So does this SCV team, is that kind of got you covered there, or is there still any ask to the broader community for help in that regard, or is that all covered now?
Yeah, that was an intro made directly as a result of our outreach. So yeah, the Terra SCV team is pretty much, they're the experts that we would need to be able to tell us here, is there anything specific about Terra that could potentially screw us up? So I think we've got it well in hand at this point. But again, if anyone on the call wants to go ahead and take a look at that PR right now, you might find something in there that you could exploit. And if you can exploit it, I'm willing to pay a 2,000 rune bounty. So if you can go on StageNet right now and find some way to extract funds from either the Luna or the UST pool, I'll send over 2,000 rune to you. We've already paid out a 1,100 rune bounty last week for someone who was able to do that. And yeah, they're basically in a time like this when we're gearing up to launch a new chain, there's open bounties always for this kind of thing. So if people are encouraged to poke around, try and do something sketchy, and if they can, reach out, and we will be handsomely rewarded.
Maybe it'd be good to just go over briefly the process for submitting a bounty and just putting that through to you guys. How does that normally work?
This is one of those things it's a little bit more out of band from something more traditional, like the ImmuneFi. ImmuneFi, I think, technically only covers the chains that are active in ChaosNet. So you have to be able to actively steal funds from the treasury or any of the pools. This is a bit more informal, and it's literally just I had a user just DM me and be like, "Hey, I just stole some funds," and I was like, "Cool, here's 1,100 rune." So it's it's a bit more informal when it comes to the chain client, in progress. We might in the future wrap it up into something a bit more formal, but as of right now, just go and tinker and submit transactions on Terra's mainnet, because StageNet is basically just vaults running on the mainnet chain, right? So anyone should be able to just craft if you can craft the transaction, you don't need to be able to build the PR or run it yourself. You can literally go on StageNet and try to exploit StageNet right now. So, in that sense, like there's not a lot of like custom like understanding of like THORnode or how to build THORnode or run, a mocknet that would be required to even, undertake looking into or performing like a vulnerability analysis on the Terra integration. You can just like try to start spoofing, events, start spoofing contract calls right now on StageNet. And so I think that's actually probably one of like the biggest ROI parts of StageNet is that it's running all of the code in a place that like people can easily, like anyone can acquire a Luna or UST. You don't have to know about the specifics of their testnet. You don't have to run like locally a build of the PR. It's running right now, and you can go and try to exploit it on essentially what is the Terra mainnet. And that sort of like makes it more accessible because anyone with like Luna in their station wallet can just like try to start crafting transactions. So yeah, people are encouraged to do that. I was really happy about another user. I don't know if he wishes to be named, so I just won't name him. But he's super active in the Discord community, and he was just kind of like I saw the transactions come through when he sent them, and I was like, oh shit, like that's not good. So I was actually like tailing the logs and working on StageNet at that exact time. So it was kind of cool. I was like, dude, that's awesome. Thank you for taking the time to poke at this and to help make help make THORChain and the Terra integration more secure. So I don't know about the amounts. It kind of just like that just seemed like a fair amount. It was like at the time rumors like $5 or something, so it was like $5,500 bounty. So I don't know. I mean, like that. I don't know if that. I don't know. I would love to hear from the community whether people think that amount is enough, or like for like an hour's of work. Like it seems pretty good. So and I think with this kind of thing, it's like someone finds something, it's like cool. Now we'll up the ante. We'll double it. Like so, let's double it now. Let's make it 2,200 rune. And then, so I kind of like this sort of like informal, way of doing it in when it's in development. Cause again, it's not like funds are really at risk. There's a very like little amount of capital in StageNet, but again, it's just something it's like, I'm pretty confident that like THORSec would have caught this as well. And so this was even like before THORSec had a chance to look at it. But yeah, it was just like, yeah, I saw it's on StageNet and I was able to exploit it. It's like, cool, you just earned some rune.
By the way, it's the network. The network would have caught this on its own. So even if this got through and it got to mainnet and all this kind of stuff, what would have happened is that the solvency checker would have kicked in. And so before that person was even able to extract value or extract funds from the network would have already been paused itself autonomously. And so that's part of the point of these kind of additional kind of blanketed protections you put on the network does. Even if we miss something in the code, because it's a lot of code to go through, the network has these measures built right into its core protocol to help protect it on an autonomous fashion from some sort of a bug like the one that this person found that Pluto was talking about. So you could argue in some sense that this is not even really a bug in a sense because you would not have been able to extract funds in any real scenario. You could in this case because the pools are so shallow and there's no delay of things and there's a whole bunch of reasons. But in mainnet that wouldn't have actually worked out well.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that when they definitely didn't. When they tried to submit, like the faulty transaction created an outbound that shouldn't have been created, but the amount was like they just put in some absurdly high amount, and so it didn't actually end up sending any funds because the vault didn't have enough funds to send. So although it didn't result in any loss of funds, it was very clear. Like yes, you would have been able to like exploit this maybe for a small amount, but just being able to demonstrate that there was like that flaw in the code is worthy of the bounty on its own.
For sure.
Yeah, and just kind of out of curiosity, would it be worth like maybe explaining what they did if it was anything unique or interesting? Like just curious, like how it actually, like what did they do?
It's super embarrassing, but I assumed that when you like get the results of when you get a block in Tendermint, that all of the transactions in the block were successful. So I just literally wasn't checking the success code. It's embarrassing, but it's something that's simple and stupid, which is why I think it's likely that it would have been caught by THORsec. But yeah, I think like now that we're checking both the block and the block result as well, and so now that that's taken care of, I'm very certain that like there's no way to do this as long as we can guarantee that any message send that is in a successful transaction resulted in tokens being moved from one address to another. And that's pretty much the crux of like the question that we asked to the Terra SCV team, which is literally like, hey, look, here's our question. Like, if you can get a transaction with a success code of 0 and it contains a message send, is there ever any chance that those tokens didn't move from one wallet to the other? The answer to that question is no. Then the client's ready to go. If the answer to that question is like yes, a message a message execute contract could create a message send, and although the transaction it was successful, the message send didn't actually result because the contract call reverted. Like, then that's a completely different story, and that's something that I don't know enough about the Terra WASM implementation or COSM WASM at all because I don't think it would differ much from the basic COSM WASM implementation that ships with Cosmos. So if that was the case, like you could spoof a message send like that, then we might have to go back to the drawing board a bit and actually like start comparing events and logs like you would in like Ethereum. But I'm certain, like I'm relatively certain, not completely certain, of course, that is the case. So that's why we are taking additional steps to follow up with subject matter experts in the Terra ecosystem.
Yeah, and this code base that Pluto's been working on will become the basis for other chain clients and other Cosmos chains out there, whether that be Gaia or Secret Network or anything else for that matter. This becomes that kind of that basic foundation that will inherit all the security and reviews and all these things will just be inherited into those other ones and make it relatively simple to add more Cosmos chains into the future of the network.
Yeah, a great point. You guys are doing the hard work right now, and definitely appreciate hearing all the extra steps to make sure it's completely bulletproof, and then making it that much easier for the next Cosmos chains. So like on this topic of like bounties and stuff, maybe we can skip to synth war games wrapping up. How did that go?
I think it would go pretty well overall. Definitely had some struggles in the earlier days for sure. Round one had some problems, so we wanted to extend it another week and have do another week of rounds. The team I think is currently reviewing all the disclosures and figuring out if there's anything of value there or not. Which I personally am not part of that process. That's part of the Nine Realms team working on that. I'm not sure if Pluto has any more information than I do. He might. But I think overall, it sounds like it went pretty well. I haven't been informed of any serious bugs or issues quite yet personally, so I'm not aware of anything's been actually discovered yet. But maybe I just haven't been told.
Yeah, there were a couple like minor disclosures, mostly like UI bugs. So we would like to get those sorted before we activate the synths. But in terms of the fundamental mechanics of synths, everything appears to be good. And so I'd say that like if we're not going to get Terra next week, like maybe we could be activating synths as early as next week. But we have to check with some of the downstream UIs and make sure that they're going to be ready. But yeah, I think synths is more or less got the green light at this point, and THORgames was instrumental in being able to make that call.
As for rolling out the synths, so whether that happens before or after Terra, is there plans for exactly how that's like how the synth rollout is going to happen? How what the caps are on the synths? Because I know that there's going to be a certain amount of the total volume on the net. Sorry, not the total depth on the network. That'll be limited to how many synths can be minted. Is there any plans for like those numbers yet?
I don't think like an actual number has been kind of agreed upon. My personal opinion is I start off just real low at 5%. So you can't, only 5% of the Bitcoin in the Bitcoin pool can be minted into a synthetic Bitcoin, just to keep it real small, keep it real low, intentionally, and just kind of give it time to bake in with actual real pools of volume and size and depth. And more money at stake, and all this kind of stuff, so that if there's an issue or problem, we can pause not the network so much, but pause just synths, apply some sort of bug or patch of some kind, and then carry on. And if we need to, the treasury can support. And if any synths are lost or some issue happens, the treasury can step in and help with that, or do not, because this is all internally to the chain itself. So technically, there's not much risk for external assets. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but it's just less likely. And so we can either just remint the synths back artificially to give the person back their synths if there was something wrong, or vice versa, or whatever.
Yeah, I think 5% is a good number too. Like that would only be $2 million in the Bitcoin pool, which is the largest pool. So even if there was an issue, like I don't like the actual, and we had to like refund users from the treasury or something, the actual exposure and that risk is not that high. So I agree with 5%. I feel like that's probably what we'll just end up doing.
Yeah, that's cool. And I also feel like it's good to kind of like what you just illustrated is, these things are kind of like anticipated for and expected against. Like if there were minor issues, like, the protocol is very much ready to handle those. If like it's really what you guys are building is completely new and crazy, and there's always some unknowns. So if those minor things happen, it's all good to go. But huge to hear that it's like that close. That's big news. If it potentially was even before Terra, that's really cool. Also, so on StageNet, that was there wasn't the really low cap, right? So it was kind of already tested to more or less the extremes, at least in the StageNet amount of depth, right? Like that, I believe it was already like the 33% or so on StageNet.
Yeah, it was 33% on StageNet. And what makes StageNet different in some sense is that the pools are so ridiculously shallow that like basically everybody on it is a whale, right? And everybody has a lot of economic power to manipulate this and that and whatever, like, which is kind of the situation you want to test. You want to make sure everybody is like, basically has like, as God permissions in some sense, or like, the massive amount of capital relative to the pool depths to be able to do all sorts of wacky shit to create all sort of wacky scenarios. And we did find like earlier on, like a month or two ago, some edge cases we wanted to mathematically work out, but like nothing huge. And so we've obviously fixed those things and carried on all these things. But when it comes to like the real network, it's people won't have as much capital. Even if you are somebody like a whale, like people have been testing it on StageNet, you still won't be able to do much damage.
Yeah, like you can move the Luna pool by 20% with one Luna on StageNet. Like so that just allows us to demonstrate what would happen if someone acquired, basically what if it were economically viable to like steal from a mainnet Luna pool by moving the price by 20% in one direction. And like, what would the payout for that versus like, what's the payout if you just take one Luna and move the pool and earn a 20,000 rune bounty right now on StageNet? So it's easy. It's easy to demonstrate on StageNet by design. And the incentive mechanism is there to do so. And we had some people, banging around with it, trying to do that on Thor games. And they weren't able to fundamentally alter the accounting of the LPs or in any way, or send in more, take out more assets than they sent in. So for that reason, I think it's a good sign. We're going to be activating the synths very soon, folks.
That's awesome. And yeah, great points on StageNet. I've been playing on there more. And yeah, it's kind of just like fun also to see like, oh, you're swapping $20 and the slippage is like 10% or something, or you're adding to the pool and you're adding like 20% of the entire pool share. Like for UST or something, I think was only like really, I think it was like under $1,000. Yeah, it's only a couple $100. One kind of broader question I have real quick on that, kind of even just from my own perspective, but not really relating to like bounties, but like if you're on StageNet and there's just like smaller, like not exploits, but just little glitches, like sometimes I've had weird things and I'm just like, I can be uncertain what's known as an issue and what's not, and like don't necessarily want to like bother devs if it's like already a known issue. It's just like, how would you kind of navigate like just like bringing up little small errors and stuff like that? And
was it you that you were trying to swap UST and it was taking a while? That was one that I had. It was like I forget which direction the swap was. I think it was the Bitcoin out that ended up taking like a couple hours or something. And yeah, you replied back and it ended up going through. But yeah, just like little things like that. And there was one thing I ran into. I forget the error message right now, but I'm always like kind of on the fence. I'm like, do I want to try to take Pluto's time and maybe waste his time with something that is already known, or is this actually like a problem? Sometimes I can be uncertain about that. Mm. I try to like mention or announce in the StageNet channel when there's ongoing issues, like because I am pushing code and like often like basically just like testing in StageNet. So it's possible that there's some downtime sometimes. And in that particular case, I was running into lag with like the Bifrost scanners due to basically an inefficient way of looking up like transaction results. So that's fixed now. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I always don't hesitate to just like message in StageNet. Or just DM me directly.
Cool.
It's always worth the time to look into those things.
As my track coach used to say when I was in high school, it's better to shed than shiver.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just funny because like as somebody that's not a dev, I'm like, oh, am I raising something that's just like completely obvious and you guys are already on it, or did I actually find something? It's hard to know like the severity when you don't actually know like the behind the scenes necessarily.
Yeah, if you think you got something, call it out. But if you think you got something on mainnet and you think it might be like an exploit where funds could be, at risk, don't call it out publicly.
Of course.
Don't do that. If you think you found an exploit that could, where funds could be lost, don't yell it out on Discord. DM, 9 Realms, DM me, or whatever. DM somebody, respected in the team, in the core dev team, or like Lena or Son of Odin or Heimdall or Pluto, Iridanus, Gavin, any of these people, just to be sure, because we don't want them to expose exploits publicly, if you have one.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just kind of referring to like small little glitches or errors like in StageNet. But yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, if you actually think you found a real issue, maybe don't scream it out.
Right, don't do that.
Cool.
Moving forward here, I just want to say that at the end, we'll open up for questions. We'll just talk about, 1 or 2 more topics, and then we'll let people up for questions. I see there's one request already. So if you want to come up and ask any questions to Chad, Pluto, myself, or Chad THOReau or whatever, just hit that request button, and then you'll be in the queue to come up, and we'll try and get through everybody. We always try and answer everyone's questions every week. So Chad, one thing that just happened recently. I mean, this isn't like a huge thing, obviously. I just brought your attention to it yesterday, but like there was some updated docs on the THORChain site. So I just wanted to make people aware that some of the documents have been updated. Could you just say what's been updated on the THORchain.org site?
Yeah. So I think the biggest, most important thing is that there's actually we created a new site as well called dev.thorchain.org, I think it is, which is basically like a more simpler, focused documentation for developers. I think that's the kind of the bigger deal, at least in my mind, because this is the link that I will be sharing with various dexes and wallets and this kind of stuff that I'm now starting to talk to a bunch of different projects and trying to get them to, collaborate and interface with THORChain and allow them to do cross-chain swaps or this kind of stuff. And so this becomes like a really helpful tool to get those those other projects to kind of collaborate and kind of, integrate faster with the THORChain protocol to, provide their communities with something, and also inherently increase the trade volume on THORChain.
That's great. Yeah, I just add one thing to that as well. And Chad, you got to remind me to add you to our Airtable, but we're starting to put together like a business development and like intake form, basically for just doing like what would be the equivalent of like customer relationship management, or CRM, in like any other company. But we're going to start like building out a database of like all the different projects, what kind of TVL or volume or daily active users, like what key metrics they're hitting. And then we're going to basically start using that information to start prioritizing outreach for different organizations. And so we're starting to build out a pipeline where, first we're just doing research and trying to figure out, which candidates are the best for outreach and for partnerships. And then from there, we'll be doing like education. So doing kickoff meetings with the projects, one-on-ones with their devs to be able to introduce them to the THORChain ecosystem, the documentation, answer any questions they might have, and then schedule weekly check-ins with them to, make sure that the process is moving along. So as that is all to say, as 2022 starts to shape up, Nine Realms and the core team will be working closely to kind of nail this pipeline for bringing new ecosystem projects into the fold. Once we go live in mainnet, basically one of our biggest focuses will be parlaying that momentum into onboarding new dexes, new aggregators, and new wallets to begin using THORChain as their backend. That's major wallet providers like Trust or Ledger to have their swaps powered by THORChain is a major goal for THORChain, as well as all the DEX aggregators like 1inch, Paraswap, and all those players, having them routing their swaps through THORChain as well. So just growing the ecosystem is going to be a huge focus for us this year, in addition to adding more chains. And so we've already started to do a bunch of work, just like basically creating that database so that we can then prioritize our efforts.
Awesome. I just pinned the new dev.thorchain.org on the top of this space. So if you're interested in checking that out, just click that pin on the top of this space, and you can see all of the documentation regarding just integrations for like wallets, aggregators, and just putting THORChain, like the actual chain, in a wallet. So that's really great for new devs coming in to have specific documentation about that. And also there's just regular docs on the THORChain site. There's docs.thorchain.org. And so if you're rusty on your THORChain knowledge, or you just want to look around a little bit and learn a little bit more, docs.thorchain.org is a great resource to see what THORChain is and exactly how it works right from the org site. So
100%. Yeah. If you're not a dev, it's great that those resources are there to make it easier to integrate. But for all the non-devs, people just looking to understand THORChain, those docs have really been cleaned up a lot. I'm referring back a lot myself just to strengthen my understanding. And there's like how it works and really breaking down everything. So yeah, people should check that out. Docs.thorchain.org, or for the dev one, dev.thorchain.org.
Yeah, Chad or Pluto, is there anything else that's pressing that you guys want to discuss, or we can move on to questions?
I have one more thing to bring up with the community is so we've been talking about doing a hard fork, which we've never done in THORChain's history, which is very unique because most Cosmos chains hard fork as their mechanism to upgrade the software, and we designed our software to not require hard forks to upgrade the software on purpose, because that allows us to be able to update asynchronously without needing coordination. Or people to dox themselves and, get into a group together and start chatting about when we're going to halt the chain to be blah, 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 and all these things. But the reason why we're considering doing hard fork now is that Cosmos itself is bringing the version of Cosmos that we currently run on to end of life pretty soon. That basically means that they're no longer going to, maintain that version or maintain anything with it. So we to want to stay, with Cosmos in that community and make sure we have the latest security patches and all that kind of stuff, we have to do a hard fork. And we have to hard fork that because we can't do that asynchronously. It's something that's happening underneath our application. It's something more fundamental. And so we have to do that in the way that Cosmos kind of requires us to do that, which is to do a hard fork. And so all that really means is, and we're going to do this in testnet first and then StageNet second and then mainnet last, obviously. And what that basically means is that we'll pick a block height, some number, and then all the nodes will basically halt at the same exact block height, export the chain state into basically a big giant JSON file, and then import it into a new chain state and with all that stuff. And so you basically purge all the history of THORChain's history and all the data that it doesn't get exported into the JSON file. All that stuff gets kind of purged from the history, making the chain very small. I think it's going to go from like 400 gigabytes down to like 1 gigabyte or something like this. And then we'll restart the chain. All the TSS key shares are all the same. It doesn't need to be changed at all. Everything is just, all the validator sets are the same. Everything else is identically the same. And we start pumping new blocks starting at the height we left off before. So that's going to be something we're going to be getting involved with. And some part of the requirements, at least in my mind, about going to mainnet is just doing a successful hard fork and proving that we can actually do it as a community, which we'll be doing that probably in March at some point.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that the hard fork will just allow us to get rid of a bunch of the cruft, flatten all the version handlers, kind of start anew, and be a nice starting point for mainnet.
So, Chad, when this happens, is there going to be any loss of service? Like, will swaps be halted, or is this just like a seamless thing that just, one block just exports and the next block it just keeps going?
No, it won't be seamless because the network will have to pause temporarily. How long will it be paused for? Probably maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending upon stuff. I think by the time we get to do it on mainnet, we've already done it on 2 other networks prior, and we'll kind of have our procedure kind of down pat, and it'll be as autonomous as we can make it so that, validators haven't done this before, right? And so it's a new process for them, and it's something that they're going to have to learn and figure out how to do. And maybe some of them will have some issues, which they're going to have to use make relay to kind of ask the devs like how to fix this problem possibly. So we'll see how it goes, but we'll make it as autonomous and as straightforward as possible, so that it requires very little energy or effort to do it. Cool. But it's going to take probably interrupt the networks for just an hour or two, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool how just to hear that's one of the final mainnet checklist items as well, and just to clean everything up for the fresh start and like to have that longevity of being on the latest Cosmos stuff and all that. So very cool.
Right.
Cool. So I think we're going to start pulling up some questions from the audience.
I also, is it okay? I wanted to address sort of mainnet and what the expectations around that were, just from like a feature perspective. I know there's been a lot of people on Twitter and in the community saying that like they wanted an updated roadmap, and sort of like a state of THORChain type of update. So I think that's something that we're going to start putting together, and you should look out for that sometime in the next week or two, as we start to lock these all in. But just we discussed it in the past couple of days, and I think when from the perspective of like what features do we want, and this what are we actually trying to ship as developers before we hit mainnet. The list is as follows. So it would be launching Terra, killing the soft cap, adding bond providers so that multiple bonders could bond into one node, activating the synths, activating Thor names, and then the hard fork that we just discussed, and then 100 plus nodes, and then a minimum of 30 days of stability after that hard fork. And once we've reached that 100 nodes, and then I think from that point we would be ready to declare mainnet. So there's a lot still in flight. That's about 10 more sort of definitive deadlines that we have to meet. But I think we're still going to be pretty confident and on track here to be hitting those all pretty soon. So just wanted to give that update. We'll publish something that kind of lays this stuff out more in detail for the community at large.
Yeah, I think we can actually probably do all those features. I think we can launch all that stuff relatively quickly. I think that we'll have it out, in the next 30 to maybe 60 days, have all those features that you just kind of rattled off. And then wait another 30 days after that, just to make sure the network is stable and secure and reliable, and we don't have any problems after mainnet. Of course, we're going to have problems after mainnet. Of course, every network in the world does, but we just haven't feel like it's at a tolerable level in a sense.
Yeah, so that probably puts us at about April. So you can all stop asking when mainnet. But also April's nice. Who doesn't like spring? Crypto spring, right? Maybe the war will be over, and we can all go about our business and have a nice crypto spring.
Yeah. I guess before we bring up anyone for questions, maybe Chad would just like to expound a bit on exactly like what the significance of THORChain going to mainnet means. Like, what does that mean for the world? Like, what is that? Like, what are we really working towards here? And what's the goal? Because it's kind of easy to get hung up in the weeds of what's coming next. But what exactly do we have? And what does that mean for everybody?
Well, for me, it means, in the end, it's just a label, right? I mean, nothing, like it's really a process to get there. It's not like something actually happens that day. Like that day will probably be very uneventful, probably. But it's just, to me, it just signifies the idea that we've started this path of building this kind of decentralized network, starting in, I think it was July in 2019, building this code base and launching this thing. And we had this white paper we released to the world to kind of had these very ambitious claims that I recall people telling me that I, don't understand crypto enough. I'm a scammer. I remember even like Hayden from like uni was just like giving me shit, like, oh, you don't understand why your shit's broken, and like just saying all this crap, and so it's been a long time, running, and obviously it was a difficult project, and obviously it was a ambitious project. I never, doubted that aspect to it, but I always felt confident that we were able to deliver on that white paper. And now that we've launched the network, which we did back in April, and we went through, effectively close to a year of kind of fine tuning and improving some things. We had some bugs, we had some, exploits, we had some things that needed to be kind of worked out. I always said from the very, very beginning, before we even launched single chain, that this network, this DeFi protocol, will require more time to bake and to kind of, to mature than your average, DeFi protocol, because what we're doing here is just incredibly difficult. I mean, putting together a consensus on top of consensus is just so meta. It's just kind of makes your head spin in a sense. And so to me, the mainnet label just means that we have finally accomplished it, and that we've actually delivered the white paper. And any claims, that we haven't done what we've done, I will seriously argue that person till I'm blue in the face, that we've actually delivered something of significant value to the greater cryptocurrency ecosystem. And I will feel very, very, very proud of that for sure.
Hoorah, that's awesome. It's the day that you can finally tell all the haters told you so.
Pretty much. Hey, you launch this thing, it's working, it's stable, it's secure, like all these things. I would be happy to argue that. If anybody wants to argue with me on that, I will take you to town on it for sure.
Totally. And I think for me, like the mainnet label, as someone who was is a newcomer to like the dev team, but has been lurking around since like single chain. To me, like mainnet is an important label, and I know, like as long as the longer you've been with the project, the more jaded you can become on the label. But to me, like as someone who's still relatively new, there is still a lot of excitement around that label, and for me, what that means is it means we can actually go and start like really ramping up the the marketing and sort of like the official business of THORChain, which as Nine Realms, our goal is to make THORChain an official business, or as legitimate as any other tier one project, tier one blockchain. So that means going to the ledgers and the trust wallets of the world and saying, we are mainnet now and we're ready for you, and we want you guys to integrate because we are stable, and we can explain to you all the things that Chad just explained that we had to do to get here. So I think it's a tremendously momentous event, not necessarily in terms of what actually happened that day, but what can happen after that day.
Yeah, to be fair, like I remember Ledger actually did tell us when we were talking about integrating with THORChain. They were like, "Well, you guys are beta right now, and so we don't want to get involved with the beta." Blah blah blah. Like that was one of the reasons why we struggled to kind of on ramp that wallet into THORChain. But as Pluto was just saying, once mainnet has a label, that kind of changes the conversation, changes the calculus.
Yeah, great point. We're kind of used to understanding the label is just a label, but from the outer perspective, it does mean a lot. So that'll be huge.
The label is just a label, but THORChain is still a critical crypto infrastructure. There's no other network that has decentralized native Bitcoin swaps, and you can't discount that or write that off or just say it's only a beta network or anything like that. This is real builders that are getting stuff done and building something for everybody. It's not just a chain that's building something for themselves. It's building something that's a public use chain, and it's something that contributes greatly to the entire crypto economy, in my opinion. So yeah, we're letting people up for questions now, unless you guys have something else you want to say. We have Hope up here who's been waiting for a while. All right, Sopsock, hello, good morning.
Hey, good morning or good afternoon or evening. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. Thanks for the update, guys, and glad to hear that ETH Denver was a success. Really wanted to represent Europe, but the 10-hour plus flight was just a bit too much for me. So the next time you visit Europe, I want to plan a meetup in Europe. I'm game. Can't wait. Just a quick question. Pluto already mentioned something about a checklist or about mainnet, but during the Doge integration, there was also a checklist, like 6 or 7 points, which we could follow the actual status on the integration. Are there plans to do the same thing for the Terra integration?
We'll do that. I'll publish that on Monday. Yes, we'll do that. That's a good idea.
Okay, cool. Was a great thing to follow for the Doge thing specifically. So would be nice to have it for Terra as well, or maybe in the future for all chain integrations, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do it.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thanks, man. Greed Floyd, welcome back.
Hey, hi guys. So I have a curious question regarding Nine Realms. So can you guys tell me some background about Nine Realms? I mean, do you guys were really working somewhere else, or like a group of people who were like some friends or something? Because like a set of people who are interested in THORChain and developing it, and so I'm just interested, is that the Nine Realms organization were already there and they then decided to come into THORChain, or then what's the inception is around? I don't want to like dox anyone's personality, so if you are okay with it, so yeah, if you can.
I think the question was, how did Nine Realms kind of come into the picture? So, a couple of our co-founders are early THORChain, enthusiasts. Like they read the white paper and were like, hell yeah, this sounds awesome. So at least one of them invested in the seed, and another, basically all of us were involved, or at least fans of THORChain since the very beginning. We saw THORChain and what it's doing, and we're like, yes, this is awesome. And it wasn't until THORChain really launched multi-chain and demonstrated to the world that that it was serious and that it was able to achieve all the things that it said it could, that most of us were basically ready to pack up on our day jobs and start working on this thing full time. That's basically how THORChain came to be. It's a bunch of people who how Nine Realms came to be. It's a bunch of people who were THORChain fans, and then just decided to work on it full time one day.
Sounds great, actually. And so extension of that question. So as a developer who is developing something which is web development or a backend engineering, not necessarily something which is cryptographic related, how much do you think is an effort to just make a PR in something with related to THORChain? Because I have seen there is a code in Go also in THORChain, THORnode. So I'm talking about a developer which has background for Java, C Sharp, C++, all those languages, but no idea about cryptography. So how would you describe that journey from there to as a developer in mainstream programming to this programming?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, like, I started out my career in working at a foreign exchange and a major at a major bank, right? So it's like I started out my career doing Java and learned Golang as a result of working at a startup, which is where you're more likely to use like sort of these newer technologies. So I would just recommend if because the project is written in Golang, and so like really just Golang is absolutely necessary to be able to contribute. That is to say, just from like the backend and the core protocol, there's tons of opportunities in all of like the front ends and for design, for JavaScript, for HTML, all that stuff. But in terms of the core protocol, like the Golang is absolutely necessary. So one of the best ways to learn Golang is just to like read Golang standard library. It's got all the best patterns of Golang are used in their standard libraries. So just like learn up about Golang, and then from a perspective of actually like contributing on THORChain itself, it's pretty easy. Like there's a lot of open issues. I'm actually like me and Chad are about to publish a new issue for like refactoring the solvency checker, for example, where we can offer like a relatively or an extremely well spec'd out kind of like idea of what we're looking for and exactly what needs to change in what places. And it's really just a matter of like going through and coding it. But like, if you're just starting out and learning Golang and that you want to just like start, messing around with THORnode, like try to get like the mocknet running, or at the very least try to run the unit tests. Once you can run the unit tests, then like build THORnode and then run the mock tests against the build. And so, this is one place that we're actively trying to improve, is in the developer tooling and making it easier for developers to onboard. So likewise, if you are working through any of these things, just trying to get, it running and on like Docker Compose or the mocknet or any of those things, and you run into any issues, feel free to reach out, because we are very invested in ensuring that developers have the best possible experience onboarding with THORChain.
Oh, sounds very doable, Pluto. I will do that. The inertia for me was I thought I had to learn Solidity, but if it's just Golang and I can play around with it, it's very doable. So yeah, thanks. Sounds good.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no Solidity experience required to make an impact on THORChain, and you don't even need to know cryptography. Like it's most of the cryptography takes place at Tendermint and Cosmos level. Like I'll tell you from experience. Like I was daunted to start working at 9 Realms full time, because everyone is like, well, I'm not like a protocol engineer. I don't know anything about writing like blockchain protocols and stuff, because it sounds really daunting. But like at the end of the day, like it's just a Golang application, and it's just moving, it's just moving numbers around a distributed database. And that's something that I think that we're all familiar with as developers. So, just believe that you can actually do it. And I think that, you'll come to realize soon enough that it's not as scary as it looks.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, man. That's all I have.
Cool. We've got Soundwave. Soundwave, you there?
Oh. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, the mic was off there. Hey guys, thanks for all this. You're doing great. I appreciate all the stuff here. And real quick, you said the magic word ledger. What is your future thoughts about partnering with Ledger? How's that going to work?
Well, so it's a few things. For starters, the first thing we wanted to get done with the relationship to Ledger was building a THORChain app on the Ledger, so that you could hold Rune on your Ledger and all that kind of stuff, and provide liquidity, and all that those kind of things. That's already done. You can already do that today, which is great. And there's a few small bugs to be worked out, and the dev cycle to actually update it in the Ledger app is a difficult process, which we've been working on for a while, but we can continue to work on that. But the next part about it is trying to integrate THORChain into the Ledger Live UI that you're probably already familiar with. You probably use it all the time, more or less. So there's two things we would love to accomplish in that system. One is allowing you to swap, from asset A to asset B using THORChain. The whole UI, like you don't need to use THORSwap anymore. Technically speaking, you can just do it all within Ledger Live, and including adding liquidity, withdrawing liquidity. As you can probably guess, like Ledger is obviously probably the biggest wallet in the world in terms of the amount of capital that's being stored inside a Ledger. And so if we get that integration, which we'll be working hard to do, that'll be massive in terms of the amount of trades and trade volumes and amount of liquidity that will be added to the network will just be pretty spectacular. So we're trying to get there as best we can.
Well, best of luck, guys. I'm not tech. I'm certainly not a dev, but I'm all about decentralized and DeFi, and I'm super excited about what you guys are trying to do, and especially with Luna coming on board. I'm excited for that project too. And I'm still trying to get my head around it. And I think my head's going to explode when you guys finally get together. and you said March 10th, you were hoping for that integration?
Yep.
All right. That's my birthday. So let's do it.
Awesome. Happy birthday.
So, thanks, man. So as like a non-tech, non-dev guy, how do I help the THORChain? Do I run a node? What's a normal person's best way to participate?
Well, there's a lot of ways you can do that. One way is if you want to run a node, you can. If you have the runes to support it, that's great, and we can also help you to get educated and informed like how to do that. You can always provide liquidity to the network itself and produce some yield on your own. That's one way of helping out the project and the community as a whole. Other one was just like tweeting out, doing some like reach out, this kind of things. There are a lot of people in the community like THOReau, like THOReau, that's here, that's figured out other ways of like helping the community by educating, informing, this kind of thing. THOReau does NFTs, there's Runebase. I mean, I don't know what your skill set is or what you're kind of good at in a sense, but there's probably a way to utilize that skill set to help further the project and the protocol. So, and if you want to talk to me later on or whatever, you can tweet at me, DM me or whatever, and say, hey, this is what I'm really good at. How can I help the THORChain community? And I'll see if I can think of a way to put you to good use. And if you're doing something really valuable to the community, I think we'll probably even throw you some room from the treasury, so you can even get all that kind of stuff. So if anybody's got some good skill set they want to throw at the community, then let us know. We'll be happy to fund you if it actually does provide value.
Super. So yeah, with Luna coming on board, do I want to be stacking Rune or stacking Luna or both?
Both. Yeah, stack both and then throw them into the Luna pool on day one and just watch that shit grow. Like it's going to, 20, 30%. I mean, if you look at BUSD, which is the most popular stable coin, not because it's the best stable coin, it's not accepted by, well, for me, at least as, an American, like I need to use either USDC or something else if I want to send that to Coinbase or whatever to cash it out. So I'm personally not going to use USDC though, like if I'm just trading in and out of positions because of like the high fees on the Ethereum chain, right? So the BUSD pool it uses Binance chain, which has instant finality and low fees, so it's very quick to like swap in and out And so with with bringing Bitcoin synths on, I can be like swapping a Bitcoin synth in and out of a BUSD position or any other synth for that matter, but with instant finality and very low fees. So that's what makes like the BUSD pool have like the highest volume of any pool on THORChain today. But I think very quickly the UST pool will eclipse the BUSD pool in both volume and in liquidity depth. And so when there's a lot of volume, there's a lot of possibilities for fees, and higher fees is higher APYs. So I wouldn't be surprised that like if you're long both you're long both the Terra ecosystem and Rune, that your best bet is going to be to just put that, symmetrically pool that liquidity in the Luna and the UST pools on day one on your birthday. And then thank yourself with those returns, every birthday, that you have the year after.
That's the plan. Well, thank you guys. And thanks for confirming that. So one last question. So Thor Chads are guy fans of THORChain. I'm trying to get my wife involved in Thor too. What are Thor women? Thor Charlene's? What do you...
That's a good question. I actually have no idea what it is. Maybe Chad THOReau would probably know.
I don't know. I think we can all be Chads, Chadettes.
Chadettes. Right.
I thought of one once. I thought like if somebody, maybe if they have brown hair, they could be a brunette. I thought of like with a rune. Maybe not the best, but there's something there.
Brunette, I like that.
Yeah, I think brunette is good.
Yeah,
brunette. You got it.
Brunette.
I like that.
Well, cheers, guys. Thanks so much. Best of luck.
The other thing I want to say, the other thing I just wanted to say is that me and Chad THOReau, we're just community members. Like, we're not on the core team. We're not developers. Like, we just started doing spaces. I made a THORChain sneaker NFT project, and then I just started doing spaces. Chad did the same. He just started doing spaces, and now we're here and we host, the weekly developer update. Like, there's so many ways that actually anyone here that's in the audience could get involved and just do something, and then have people will come and people will do stuff because people want to be involved and be part of the community and to create something, because we're building something here that we want to last, and we want to really make an impact on the world by doing this. So I mean that's why I do it, and we just found ourselves here. Like anyone could do it.
100%. Yeah, I would just add, I'll just add also, because maybe a little lag. I felt like I was talking over you. But yeah, me and Cal like both went through this, right? Like we were just community members. We're like, how do we help? And we're not devs, but there's so like, we've kind of gone through this realization, like there's like these projects really need everything, like if you can talk, if you can write, if you can condense ideas, if you can make videos, if you can, run a Discord, if you can do graphic design, like who knows what it is. Like, I'm sure you have skill sets that these projects need. And yeah, the only other like part I would add would be like, even beyond just the core protocol, there's all these ecosystem projects too. And all those ecosystem projects need everything. So, if you like, these projects are in such a need of it that if you just roll up and you're like, I can do this, I'm pretty sure it's quite easy to get into the door, I would say. So, if people right now are like working jobs and thinking about THORChain all day, like, think about how your skills could translate, and they're definitely going to be in demand. So
fantastic. Thanks again, guys. It's so great to have somebody like you to actually answer questions for people like me who are not tech, not devs. I really appreciate this opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, and if you're new to the ecosystem, make sure you're checking out LP University is the best place to look for like information on being a liquidity provider. And make sure you always, do your research and talk to other people in the community before taking any actions or anything like that. There's so many resources here, and it's all just made by community members. So thanks, man, for coming up. There's a question from Discord that was just asked for Chad and Pluto. Someone was wondering what chains are being eyed next after Terra. Is there a concrete plan on which chains are going to be added after Terra?
Yeah, so the next one, and Pluto, you're probably a better person to answer the question, so I'll let you go first.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like as you mentioned, Chad, the work we're doing right now on the Terra client is generic for any Cosmos chain. So really, like any Cosmos chain that we want to add can be done very quickly after we launch Terra. So that includes Cosmos Hub, which via IBC will give access to like the entire Cosmos ecosystem. So that's really cool. We'll probably do Atom next, and then probably after that will be Avalanche. Again, just another chain that's probably not going to have that much R&D overhead because it's an EVM based chain, and we already have the Ethereum client. So that'll be another candidate. Following that, or before that, I don't really know, but at some point very soon, we're going to be seeing the Haven protocol integrating with Bifrost. So they've already, demonstrated that they have support for that in MachNet, and so we're very rapidly approaching the point of being able to onboard them into StageNet and start testing there. But there are some things that have to happen on THORnode before that. And so I think those are the big three after Terra. Once we hit like 10 chains, it's we have to really start thinking about like the scalability of the infrastructure. If we do want to reach true decentralization, we need to find a way to get off of, the big 3 or 4 cloud providers that are, the lion's share of nodes on THORChain today. So we do have to start thinking about like how, adding more chains is just going to add more like hardware that you'd have to run, and do we want people to have to, build an entire like rack mounted server in their closet to run a THORnode at home? Probably not. So there's going to be a lot of trade-offs when we decide what those next chains are after those next 3 or 4 that I mentioned. But I think what we can all agree on is that we want to go after the ones that have the highest potential for generating revenue for THORChain. And so that means a combination of both DeFi nativity. So it's like, are they aware? Are they prepared to actually participate in this cross-chain revolution, or are they going to come kicking and screaming? So that's kind of like one of the big determining factors is how much volume can they generate, and what's the infrastructure complexity. So I think like after we get the next few, I think we should chill out for a bit on it and just kind of like assess the playing field and really make like decisions based on data, and rather than just like we need to add more chains because like it's a good thing or it's a positive indicator for the project. But yeah, I think it becomes a bit more scientific going into 2023 and beyond.
Awesome, thanks, Pluto. Next up, Dan Smith, welcome back.
Hey everyone, great to talk to you all again, and happy Friday. I just had a quick question around the incentive pendulum. So, I know that the incentive pendulum is used to allocate distributions of rewards to both node operators and LPs, but I just had a question regarding, like what exactly is packed into that reward? Is that solely the block reward, or is there also a component of that reward that is also accounted for through the system income generated through fees?
Yeah, so it's considered to be the system income. So even the swap fees that, like the Bitcoin swap fees that the Bitcoin pool gets, that's up for grabs in the sense of being reallocated to the nodes. And so the incentive pendulum is always taking the complete system income and block rewards and swap fees to redistribute the value to based upon where it needs to be distributed.
Okay, so it's the rewards in total. So the swap fees and the block rewards considered
Correct.
as one value. Okay, that's good to know.
Yep.
That's awesome. And then so the fees for a transaction is kind of broken down into 3 different pieces, right? So my understanding is the network fee, the gas fee component, as well as the slit based fee. Is that correct? First of all.
Yep, it's correct. The slip fee or swap fee is relative to the size of the trade and the depth of the pool. And then the network fee is a flat 0.02 rune right now, which can be changed by Amir if the nodes want to change that, which that goes into the reserve, top up the reserve a little bit. And then the gas fee is just trying to extract some value from your outbound transaction to pay for the gas that the network's going to have to pay for to send you that Bitcoin or send you that Ethereum or whatever asset that is.
Right. So, and that's currently, I believe, is set at 3 times the gas fee stored on chain. And so that would 1/3 would pay for the transaction. And then the other 2/3 that would flow into this pool of system rewards, right?
So the one thing that flows into the system rewards is the swap fee itself. The other two do not participate in the system income.
Okay, so the slip base fee then would also be pulled in, would like essentially stay in the liquidity pool, right? Because if you're doing a Bitcoin to Rune swap per se, then if you did a massive swap, then that would just decrease the amount of let's say you, I don't know, swapped 100 Bitcoin through the pool, that would decrease the amount of Rune you get in return.
Yes, if it's a massive, 100 Bitcoin swap, you'd probably pay a lot in fees, and you would leave all that fee would be collected as part of the system income and then be redistributed to the nodes versus the pools, depending upon, the ratio of these independent.
Perfect. Awesome. I really appreciate you kind of sorting that out for me, Chad.
No worries. Here every week.
Yeah, I'm always listening. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Nervin, what's up, man?
Hey there. My question is more to Pluto from Nine Realms. Pluto, one of the Nine Realms.
I think Pluto just drew. Oh wait, sorry. Okay, never. So you can keep asking me. He's still here. I'm inviting back up though. Yeah.
I know that one of the Nine Realms' goals is to bring institutional liquidity to THORChain. I was just wondering whether Pluto could comment on how that's going. What are the conversations been like so far? What are the frictions he sees? Stuff like that.
Sorry, I missed the question. I accidentally got dropped. Can you just say it again real quick?
Sure. I was going to say one of the Nine Realms goals is to bring institutional liquidity to THORChain, right? So I was just wondering if you could comment on how those conversations are going so far, and what are some of the frictions you see, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really comment on specific people that we're talking to, but I can say that the conversations that we have been having have been extremely fruitful so far. We've got people, and so it's like, I mean, one of the things that a lot of big institutions are seeing is like, how things with, the actual Rune price starts to pan out, because a lot of people don't want to take the Rune exposure. We've talked to plenty of Bitcoin maxis who are like sitting on tens of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and they're just like, yeah, this sounds great, but I'd like literally just want to be able to provide, asymmetric liquidity or just earn on just my Bitcoin. So that's something that's going to take a little bit longer for us to like figure out if we can support that at the protocol level using Thor savings or synths or anything like that, Thor USD. So like those conversations are kind of like on the back burner. But the conversations that we've been having with people that like do believe, through our education, we've spoken to some of these people and they've like sort of converted into, Rune believers, and they're like, oh, I didn't really know about this, but it's something that sounds like it's worth being long on. So yeah, I will take, a chunk of my ETH or whatever and, either acquire Rune on the open market, or Nine Realms can like take the Rune side of the LP position and sort of like do a revenue share on the APY. So there's just like, there's a lot of ways that, we've been talking about it. Obviously, this, one of the things that we do also is kind of run nodes. So if you are long Rune as well, like, and you're just sitting on a chunk of it, it also makes sense to, pool it with us and with one of our validators, and you can earn on that as well. But yeah, like I think, I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't say exactly how much, but it's possible we're going to get a really, really big ETH slug pretty soon for liquidity on THORChain. So yeah, we're talking to a lot of different people, but it's an education process, and we have to educate people on like what THORChain is and what the what sort of like the the limitations of the system are, and what impermanent loss is, and how it can be mitigated. And as we've been kind of helping people with that sort of journey, we've had people sign up and just put in large slugs of liquidity. So another thing that we're also doing is working on lining up the day one capital from the Terra pools as well. So I can tell you there's going to be a lot of capital being funneled through Nine Realms into the Luna pools from the very beginning. But again, I can't really talk about from who or what the timing on that will be, just because that's confidential. But it's a growing and maturing part of our business, but the core part of our business is still running nodes and helping to assist on operations and development of the network itself.
Thank you so much.
Hey, we have time for these last two speakers to come up. First up, Miguel, welcome.
Hey guys, what's up? I've been a long pool on THORChain, and for 2 years, my friends introduced me to this project, and I was quite mind blown. But in the beginning, it was hard for me to understand. Lately, I've been talking with a lot of friends about this project. A lot of people has shown more interest in the crypto space, and what I feel is whenever they go to the website or whenever they go to the communities, they always feel lost and kind of don't see the mission of THORChain well established. I feel it's a little complex for early for newbies to kind of get what THORChain is trying to do. And do you guys have any feedback on this, or is just my friends, or is it like something more general that you are trying to work on in terms of education or UX or restructuring the website, for example?
Yeah, I think like Grassroots Crypto, which is a YouTube channel, I think he does a really good job to kind of like lay things out and make it easier for people to understand conceptually what's happening. It is a very difficult project for sure. Like it's very complicated in many respects, and wait until the THORFi stuff drops. That's going to be dropping in the next couple weeks, I think, and that's going to be even more complex for people to understand. But it's complex because it has to be, because it's solving a very difficult and complicated problem. But yeah, so that's something that I think is up to the community to try to solve. I think Grassroots is doing it. I think even Chad THOReau, I think you're working on some documentation and such to help people understand some of these concepts as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, totally. This is something I'm trying to think about, and I agree with you, Miguel. Like, I do think that this is one of like the major problems to solve, at least not on the technical side, but just on the public side. It's like, because it's decentralized, it's very fragmented. Like there's the .org, there's the .com, there's all these different sites that are kind of independently run. So we do kind of have this problem of like a lack of cohesiveness and just like very simplicity to onboard somebody that's new. But it's something like Chad said, it's kind of up to the community. So yeah, I mean, if you have thoughts too, definitely throw them out there, or just even get started on them, or do what you can. That's kind of, yeah, like Chad mentioned, I'm doing that. I'm trying to do this a bit with THORSwap. So I joined THORSwap to help with content. So we're doing like tutorials and things like that. At least on my end, I'm doing like video tutorials, walkthroughs, just trying to simplify like the how-to. Yeah, Chad mentioned Grassroots Crypto. He's extremely good. That's, I would say, more so towards like deeper technical understanding. And yeah, I'll probably get to some similar stuff like that, maybe myself if I can. But yeah, I think this is a goal of mine personally, is to try to figure out like, how do we simplify these really complex things into just like bite-sized messages that anyone can understand. But yeah, I do think it's up to the community. The other thing I would add is, the really like the thing that makes us all, at least myself, like so bullish on Rune is kind of this idea of THORChain being the invisible backend, which that could be the messaging on these websites as well. But the average user doesn't necessarily need to know anything about THORChain or Rune. But if it ends up being integrated into Ledger Live or Trust Wallet or all these various apps that people are already familiar with, and it's using THORChain on the back end, then Rune and THORChain all benefits, like regardless of if the normie user even really knows what's going on. So I think that's an angle that's really important. But agreed. Yeah. As far as like onboarding people to use it and to, understand the Rune token. There's a lot of simplifying to do. So something a lot of us are thinking about.
Okay, thanks. Because I feel that when I go to the website, I'm not sure if it's trying to find
which website? Which website?
THORChain.org.
Yeah.
I feel that, for example, I'm not sure if it's made out for normies or if it's like for institutional or kind of protocol or more technical people, because whenever I check it, I see multiple sections, I see a lot of info, and I feel that if it's a little bit fragmented, as you mentioned. I feel that you're trying to appeal to everyone, and I would see it better if you guys have kind of a UI that kind of approaches normies, if your focus is normies, or either focus on the technical people and then make it like separate sections of the website. That's what I feel, and my friends tell me that they cannot understand the project, and I see that it's such a good project and people should be investing, and most of the people can't contribute with at least the minimum right now to Rune.
So I just pinned a tweet to the top here, a link to Eric Voorhees. He wrote an article way back when he first introduced Shapeshift to THORChain on the back end. And Eric does a really great job in this article. I actually would recommend people read it if you haven't already read it. If you got friends who don't know what THORChain is and they want to understand, they're non-technical people like what you're describing, Miguel, read this article. It's a very high-level thing to read, and it's not too technical, but it kind of explains in very good detail like why something like THORChain is absolutely needed in the cryptocurrency like industry as a whole, and it kind of shows you what the value, what the problem is that it's solving, without getting too complicated with continuous liquidity pools and slip-based models and in like threshold signatures and like all these crazy things that are very difficult and complex to understand. So read that, send that around, read it yourself if you're interested.
Okay, thanks guys, and thanks chat. Anyway, I'm gonna be here for the next weeks for when Luna is coming. I'm quite excited for that, and great work so far, guys. I'm really keen to see THORChain in the back end of everything.
Thanks, man.
Our wizard, welcome to the stage.
Hey guys, big fan of THORChain. I had two questions. The first is, so as I understand it, the Cosmos ecosystem can support somewhere around like 100 and change nodes and validators. Now that THORChain's kind of pushing up against that limit, are there any plans to scale it further, or would you consider, say, becoming a subnet on Avalanche to kind of leverage their, as I understand it, as you add nodes there, it doesn't affect the throughput. Maybe could you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the actual limit on Cosmos, according to Cosmos, is 250 nodes. That's kind of a soft number. It depends on some things. I mean, if you elongate the block time, you can probably go beyond that, probably. And that's because the number of lines of communication required to communicate between 250 individuals, or rather, 2/3 majority of those 250 individuals becomes quadratically more complex. So we'll be hitting 100 nodes probably in the next 30 days or so. We're at 83 now, I think, or something like this. And we can go beyond that. We can go to 120. We could even go to possibly even 200. But I think for right now, the intention is to go to 100 and then look at, kind of take a stop, take a pause, kind of get a sense of the, if the blockchain is slowing or not, are the problems being, is there more nodes that want to churn in, and kind of figure out what makes sense. And then we might increase it to 120. And the reason why I say the number 120 is because each Asgard has 40 members in it at maximum. And so by having 120, you would have 3 Asgards in total across the whole network. It has a kind of maximum security of having 40 nodes per Asgard. And so if you want to go beyond that, we'd probably just add another 40. So it'd go from 120 to 160 and so forth and so on. But I think like once we get to a certain place of having, so many nodes, from a security perspective, from a decentralization perspective, I think we've done pretty good. We're not trying to get to be, 30,000 nodes like some other networks are trying to do. We're just trying to get to a point where we have as many people participating and adding bond as possible. And once we actually add the light nodes, vault nodes, whatever you want to call them, I'm no longer adding validator nodes to the network. You're adding vault nodes, which are not participating in consensus, but they're participating in security and secure the assets on the network, all the Bitcoin and Ethereum and Luna and so forth. So I think we're going to get to about 100 in the next month, and we'll probably extend to 120 and then take another kind of like temperature read and then decide as a community whether or not we want to go beyond that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that would be cool. Especially since I don't have enough Rune right now to be a node, but I would like to contribute in that sense. And I think having more would be beneficial. My second question is, so I saw a tweet about doing having a discussion with the Layer 0 team. Are there any updates on that? Or if not, would you be willing to do an AMA at a later date or another Twitter space or something to kind of discuss those?
Yeah, so I've heard.
I'll fight them in open combat. No.
I'll fight them. No, but so my only hesitation about doing that is that I don't want to go negative, right? I don't want to get into a discussion with Layer 0 and then I shit on their protocol and they shit on the THORChain protocol, and it becomes this very kind of zero-sum game argument, and the community start hating each other and throwing trash, and then THORchat yelling at these Layer 0 people. Layer 0 were yelling things at THORchat, and it becomes just kind of toxic. I can argue why THORChain is the correct design and why Layer 0 is fundamentally flawed in what it's trying to do, and why it's not what I would consider to be a good design. But I don't want to get on the horn with them and just start insulting them to their faces, and that just I just feel it's just going negative, and I don't want to do that. So I'm open to have a conversation, but as long as I don't want to get into this negative place of trying to tell them what's wrong with their designs and why THORChain is better.
Yeah, for sure. I see where you're coming from, but I guess from a knowledge perspective, so much of what they're doing is so murky. I don't really understand it. And so I guess just trying to figure out what they're trying to do, what you're trying to do, what's, I would love to hear your opinion on it. I don't really care.
Yeah. Well, what they're trying to do is not the same as what THORChain's doing. THORChain's trying to create a decentralized DeFi protocol, which the first DeFi protocol is an AMM, which is allowing you to swap assets across chains. But we also have, as people know, we want to work on other things, which we want to talk about to the community pretty soon, like lending, for example, and interest on a single asset exposure and stablecoin that is, more decentralized than anything else in the space. And so we have very kind of grand ideas, and the AMM was just the first implementation, which is obviously very difficult to do. But Layer 0 is more trying to do a cross-chain messaging system, which you could in theory build a DEX on top of that. But I'm not sure if that would be a good design. And I think part of what they're doing is that they kind of offshore most of the things to somebody else. So it's almost like coming up to like lunch and saying you have a BLT, but you actually have is 2 pieces of dry white toast. Right. And you kind of we're not going to worry about the bacon and the lettuce and the tomato. We're going to have somebody else bring that part. and that's effectively what they're doing. They're we're going to have security go to Chainlink. We're going to have economics go to something else. And we're going to have it just becomes you're just offshoring to India, metaphorically speaking, all the kind of the critical components of security, token economics, and everything else. And so it's just, to me, it's just, it doesn't make much sense to me in some regards, especially in the context of you're trying to secure assets. So I don't understand it. And I read the white paper. I've seen the things they state about THORChain. I would wholeheartedly disagree with their statements. But fundamentally, I think what they're doing is interesting. It's a different approach, and I wish them well, and I hope they do really well. But for doing DeFi or DEXs, it's probably just not the best way of going forward.
Yeah. Okay. It's breaking up a little bit on my end. I got most of it. But I guess, yeah, to kind of comment on that, so I also read the white paper and I saw something about like, having a relayer and some kind of Oracle system. Is that what you're talking about, where it breaks down, where it becomes maybe a little bit too centralized in terms of what they're trying to achieve?
Oh, yeah. So maybe centralized is kind of a complicated word to use in the context, just because it means a lot of different things in terms of how centralized is centralized. Like is Chainlink centralized? Some people might argue that it's not, and some people argue that it is. I would think for me it's pretty centralized, but that's just my 2 cents, and people are welcome to disagree with me on that. And having relayers, is also problematic because relayers can go down. Like I remember, I think it was Osmosis and Gaia, like a month ago, 2 months ago, the relayer went down, and you couldn't move from chain A to chain B, and just for hours, and that's because there's a single relayer that's doing that work, and if it goes down, then or gets turned off or whatever happens, then you're kind of shit out of luck until a new relayer kind of pops up somewhere somehow, and running those relayers oftentimes has no economics to it. Like you're just doing it out of the kindness of your heart. You're doing it for altruistic reasons, and you're not actually producing any money. In fact, relayers in the Cosmos case is actually spending gas to relay transactions, and they don't get anything back for it. They're just like, I'm going to do this good thing for these chains. And, from THORChain's perspective, we want to make sure everybody is properly incentivized, right? To ensure the longevity of the network and these kind of things. So relying on relayers, is possible. It can be a legitimate way of going forward for sure, if you have token economics built into it and security, these things. So it's interesting. And the way it's designed is that it really can only function, with EVMs. To some degree. I mean, it always needs a shim layer to function on anything. Like IBC and Layer 0, they are not implementations. They are like specifications, right? They are like, this is how the communication would look like. This is how you're defining what the communication lines would look like, but not the implementation itself of how that's accomplished. And so each chain that implements these things needs to implement it potentially in a different way than everybody else. Now, like in Cosmos speak, that's not a big deal because every Cosmos chain has this thing built right into its core protocol. And so you already have the shim layer just kind of out of the box. You don't have to build anything or do anything or whatever. That's already kind of done for you, which is really, really nice, right? But as soon as you get outside of that space into some other EVM, okay, we do Polkadot, we got to do Ethereum, we got to do Binance Smart Chain, we got to do Avalanche. You need to kind of write some smart contract. And that code has to be, secure and all these, proper things and to function properly. And then when you get out of the EVM space, and now you're going to go into the UTXO space, right? The Bitcoins, the Litecoins, the Dogecoins, like this kind of thing. Well, there's no smart contract, right? So now you have to rely on some sort of entity to be that kind of middleman. Now, if the entity is like a WBTC type of entity where it's centralized, well, that's obviously inherently problematic. And if it's just some decentralized network, kind of like what THORChain's doing, well, yeah, now you have to make sure the token economics are correct. And which that inherently means is that entity has to have its own token now. And it's going to implement its own security. And it's going to implement all these things, which is really difficult to do. Oh, and every one of these chains that do that implement independently. So you end up creating this like kind of crazy situation where you have all these, wacky shim layers. Some are really secure and some are not. Like the ones that are built into IBC, those are really secure shim layers. And, that's really a good design and all these kinds of things. But the ones that are not, are kind of hit and miss. And you're taking that kind of risk. And so if any one of these kind of shim layers doesn't work out, either it has some sort of security issue or some exploit happens, the whole of it is exploited. Everything gets exploited. Everything is at risk. All the Bitcoin, all the Litecoin, all the Atom coin, all the whatever coin. Like the whole thing is now at risk. And your ability to like mentally understand each shim layer and its own complexities and security models and token economics and all these things is like not feasible for any person to really wrap their brains around, because you have to spend a month and a half trying to figure out each individual chain's implementation and how that functions. In THORChain's case, it's just a single implementation. understand how THORChain works, you understand how it works on Litecoin, you know how it works on Bitcoin and Doge and Polkadot and Terra, whatever. It's all identically the same. Layer 2s, layer 1s, Lightning Network, they're all fundamentally handled identically the same. It becomes very easy to reason about. Granted, THORChain is not a very simple thing to understand. Honestly, that's obviously true. But I'd rather understand one thing than trying to understand like 17 of them. That becomes a little bit too much for people to kind of wrap their brains around, to actually understand what's at risk here. Even if you don't even integrate or touch that chain, that implementation, that shim layer that is insecure, you're still at risk for it, even though you don't even want to be at risk for, let's say, FTM, for example. I'm just naming a random chain. FTM, in that implementation, you got some exploit in over there, that puts all your funds at risk on Terra. And I would not want to participate in that. That just becomes, too many points of failure that you could not reason about.
Cool. I think I got the crux of that. Would love to chat more about it at another time. Thank you.
Sure.
Cool. That's all for questions today. Chad, is there any, and Pluto, is there any words you'd like to leave the community with for this week? I know it's been rough times for every market around the world. I mean, Rune included in that. So, do you and Pluto have some words you'd like to address to the community?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. The price is down to what, $350 now or $330, whatever it was. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I'm not here for the short term. I'm not here to exit and sell my ruin and rug pull everybody. That's not why I'm here. I don't care if the price is, to be honest with you. What I do care about is, are we actually adding significant value to the space? Are we actually, fixing bugs? Are we launching features? Are we adding chains? Are we doing all these things? Are we getting more DEX integrations and wallet integrations? Those are the fundamentals. Those are actually the things that actually matter within the context of the project. And those are the only things I actually really give two shits about, to be honest with you. So if the price wants to go down to $3.30 or whatever, largely because the whole market's down, the stocks are down, Ukraine's getting fucked in the ass, all of these things, I honestly don't care. It has nothing to do with what I'm trying to accomplish or what I'm trying to do for everybody in the space. Go ahead, Ukraine, have your problems. Not that I want to be unempathetic to Ukraine. Obviously, it's terrible, but that's not what I'm here for. It's not what I'm focused on. So forget about that trash. Stay fixated on the fundamentals and why it's actually a good investment to buy something like the root asset, and just hold it for the long term. If you believe in what we're doing, and naturally speaking, we'll get more trade volume, we'll get deeper pools, we'll get more DEX integration, we'll get wallets, we'll get more chain integrations. That's just a natural thing to happen as long as the fundamentals are correct and the design is a good design and all these things. The rest of it is just a natural thing to happen without any kind of, without needing to work any kind of magic of any kind. So, the market's down, the room price is down. I guess they can cause people to be kind of have a low kind of morale in a sense. But if you just stay focused on the fundamentals, honestly, I don't care.
Yeah, well put. Fundamentals are at all-time high by 10x, even if we're quite a ways from price all-time high, but things are shipping, everything's kind of coming together. And even to kind of think about like Luna, when Luna in May was crashed to $3, people kind of gave up on it, and the masses kind of follow. It should be that the ideas precede price, but in reality, a lot of times the price precedes people's ideas, if you know what I mean. So yeah, funny enough, I'm sure people will be rushing back in at some point. It will just be, at $30, not financial advice.
Sweet, guys. Thanks for getting together again. Again, we do this every single week, the THORChain weekly update with, normally we get Chad and maybe another developer up here. Thanks, Pluto, for coming out. And thank you, Chad. The recordings are always available directly afterwards. You can just click on the space right on Twitter, and you can just play the recording right there. And it's also uploaded to Runebase weekly. So that recording will be up very shortly.
Yeah,
right.
Just one last thing to the guy who was THORChain.org needs to be better. We know that, and we know that marketing and just basically documentation hasn't really been our strong suite up until this point. And we're actively working on fixing that. So yeah, we definitely appreciate that feedback. we're going to start investing more in that. It's already come a long way since from where it was in the last couple months, and huge thanks to guys like Baloney Bones and Grassroots Crypto, Jatin from the THOReau team. Like all these guys have been like really working on nailing that down. But we know we still have a long way to go for that. And so just with that said, like, Nine Realms is definitely looking for somebody to come in and help with, basically lead the marketing push for THORChain in the next, in sort of like in the next iteration and in the next, few years. How do we turn THORChain into like a business development and marketing powerhouse? And that's kind of a role I see Nine Realms taking as just sort of like the most centralized or most like, most like enterprisey part of this space right now. Like, I think that kind of like falls on us. So that is to say, like, if you know anyone with a proven track record of marketing, and I'm not talking about like shill marketing, crypto influencer bullshit. Like, if you know someone who's actually done marketing for a legit project, has that pedigree in the crypto space, or is just like brilliant, at UX design or marketing, just in any industry really. But, crypto experience, there's an obvious bonus. But yeah, definitely reach out. If you have referrals, we can hit you with like a pretty fat referral bonus paid in Rune or US dollars. But yeah, we are looking for someone to come take that stuff to the next level. So reach out to us with any leads. Because we know that's definitely somewhere we need to improve on a lot.
Sweet. Thank you, guys. Recordings will be available directly afterwards, and we'll catch everyone next week for the next developer update.